You won the track championship at Concord in 88, 90, 91, 92. So in 90, 91, 92, I'm assuming you're doing it yourself then.
Yes.
I started racing there in 91 or 92 with the street stock.
Yep.
You were the man. You were, man. And you won 31 races. Your main competition was Jack. You and Jack would go on the racing Xfinity Series, Truck Series, well-known name, but you and him are still friends today.
Absolutely.
But y'all started out sort of, of course, nobody starts out friends when they're racing against each other, but you would eventually have a race where you'd race each other enough to gain enough respect,
right.
run clean.
Yeah.
Usually when you race somebody at Concord that much, it's a feud. It's not clean. It's mean and angry.
Yeah.
And you had that with Faggart, right? Robbie?
Yeah, we had a feud.
Was it Robbie?
Yes.
And so Robbie still races Legends cars
right.
over at Charlotte.
Right.
Do you still fool around with something?
Go-karts.
You and Spragg?
Yeah.
So where do you run your go-karts?
We have a local track. A guy named Tony Wilson Jr. His daddy about 10, 12 years ago was working for me in my shop when I was building a lot of cars. And his family owned some property close to me, and we just started talking one day. We need to get a bunch of go-karts and go play. And so we scraped up a track down there and started playing. And then when the stuff would sit for a year and we'd play and just different things going on in lives. And then his son comes along, Tony Jr., and his business is a success. He's got a little money, and he buys all that property from the family and built a state-of-the-art go-kart track down there.
No.
Yep.
Where is it?
It's right off Unity Church Road over in Enochville.
Okay.
Actually, it's where the Unity Church softball field used to be. Faxon Alan Knight that works for you here, it's in his backyard.
Okay.
He's all part of that family. Yeah. And when we race, we have a ball.
And is it open to, it's official?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just
what kind of class is your kart?
Well, we kind of have unique motor rules because policing motor rules, as you know, is a problem.
Yeah.
So we wanted to keep it in the beginning to where you really don't have to have a tech guy. Our rules pretty much are visual and weight, and that's where I can fit in because I'm heavy. I always have been, and if there wasn't weight rules, I couldn't compete.
So you still drive?
I do.
Spragg does too?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know
Now, we're in different weight classes.
Are you?
So unless we're out there playing,
Yeah.
we don't really have to race against each other.
Yeah.
But I build his motors. And,
You build his motors?
I build his motors. And that's my interest. I mean, that was my interest in racing to start with, building motors.
Put something together.
Yes, put something together.
Where does Jack Sprague live today?
He lives down off Odell School Road, right on the outskirts of Concord.
Okay, so he is definitely local
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, he's local.
So you and him had a side-by-side battle, 100 laps, swapping lanes. One night during that little stretch of track championships in the early 90s.
Yep.
And from that moment, y'all had a friendship. So I find that surprising, all right, because I've watched you race, and you'll race somebody in circles without ever really touching them. You don't mind leaning on people, but you give what you get. Spragg's, I mean, I know watching him, he would put the bumper to guys, and he did do some things that were questionable and had a bit of a reputation, I guess, even as he got into the truck series. How did you and him develop such a relationship to where y'all could run so hard where he never did anything to you that warranted getting his butt whooped?
Maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Jack and I both knew he worked at Hamke's, and we
building race cars.
Building race cars. He was Hamke's guy over there, and I didn't race Hamke cars to start with, but because it was in my backyard, and Jack had so much success with them, I had Hal cars, and Robert was such a great guy. He'd help anybody, including me when I was racing against him. I ended up running Hamke cars forever. So Jack built my frames in the beginning. But we both knew immediately that we're racing for the same pot of gold, but we both depend on part of it to be able to survive. Yeah. We had to eat, and he did and I did. And we both raced a big part on what we won, still yet, then. And I don't know why. I probably caused more problems with Jack than he ever caused with me from racing hard.
Yeah.
He was better than me. He was an asphalt racer. I had to learn not to be a dirt racer on asphalt, and he was a big part of me learning that game. I couldn't drive off the right front. I had to drive off the right rear, and I struggled with that to start with. But through him and just laps, I'm like, I had to learn a different style.
Yeah.
And racing him so hard, and he was so good and such tough competition that I had to learn. I mean, that was always my philosophy. I'm going to learn how to do this, and so I did, and learned how to take care of my stuff. And like you said, he was aggressive, I was aggressive. We both didn't care about anything but the checkered flag, and we had lots of nights that we raced close. He probably over the years beat me more than I beat him. But that particular night, I had built 92, I think. I had built a Ford, and I'd always on asphalt been a Chevrolet guy. I'd been a Ford guy on dirt, just because you build a Ford cheaper on dirt than you could a Chevrolet at the time. I go asphalt racing Chevrolets, but because Fords are more expensive. But had a little deal and built a Ford, and it was a bad car. I still got it. And
you still have it?
I actually bought it back, and it sits on a 4-post lift in part of my shop. I don't know what I'm ever going to do with it, but it's there. But Jack and I had a lot of close races, and this Ford, it was a bad animal. And this particular night, we were both on the game, spot on. And we actually went through the dog leg together side by side 100 times. And it was the second 100 laps of the race, and I can go ahead and say I won the race. But I just happened to be in front of him at the checkered flag, because the lap before he might have been in front of me. It was just one of them kind of races. But after that, I mean, I think we hugged each other, and the fans went crazy. I mean, they were like, let's do it again, you know. And so it's just one of those nights.
So you never would have – I'm hung up on this word feuding, because you never would have constituted your relationship with Jack Sprague as having a feud. You had a rivalry, but not a feud. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So what was the deal with this Robbie Faggart? And then ultimately, what constitutes a feud? I mean, is there literally fighting going on, or is it just wrecking each other? What's that all about?
Well, that had kind of come from local peer pressure, a lot of it, I think.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Robbie was a good race car driver, and he'd go fast. You know, he was a fast race car driver, and he was driving for Robert Hamke at the time, and I was winning my share of the races. And so it had kind of started, maybe if I can hit you in the right front before the race starts and mess your toe up, you hadn't got, you're not going to have as good a car. Or
wow. Just
stuff, going on like that.
That's dirty.
Yeah. And then under caution, come up and rub you, maybe tear your door half off or something.
Why?
Keep you from winning the race.
That's crazy.
Were you doing that to him?
No, he's doing it to me.
Got it.
And then I kind of heard through the grapevine that he was led to do that. That maybe that wasn't totally coming out of his head. That the people around him were persuading him to do it, so they'd have a chance to win a race. Of course, he had self pressure on himself to win a race, and he had a lot of pressure around him to win a race.
Plus, he's driving Hamke's house car.
That's
a big deal.
So it just came to a head one night, and
what happened?
We don't have to go here, do we?
Yeah, that's what the show's about.
So anyway, I just finally had enough one night, and I told him, I said, I'm not going to tear up my race car to retaliate against what you're doing. I said, I'm going to tear your head up if you don't stop. And so we ended up, it just, timing, is everything. It worked out that night that we ended up in the bathroom at Shoney's at the same time. we settled it.
You got it.
He never hit me again.
In the bathroom at Shoney's?
Yeah. My wife said, "Don't you let that story come up," but it did.
Oh, come on! Now.
Matthew Dillon told us that. Told us about it.
To finish the story, Robbie and I were somewhat friends, you know. And that year, when Christmas rolled around, he calls me up and invites me to his Christmas party. And I'm
after the Shoney's bathroom incident.
Yes, I mean we went to court and everything. I had a year of probation not to hit him in the head anymore.
What?
Yeah. So
he sued you?
He took me to court. However, he went and took a warrant out for me. So I don't know if you call it whatever you call it, assault. Yeah. And the judge, that's what he did. He just said, y'all, I know what goes on at that racetrack, and we can't stop it. He said, but you can't be doing what you were doing either in public. I said, well, I didn't intend on it happening in public, but I can't put up with what he's doing anymore either. I race for a living. A door costs $50. He's costing me money. So actually, when that was over. Next morning, I come home from church, and there's a police car in the driveway, and we ended up in court. But couple months go by, fast forward, I get a phone call, and it's Robbie. He says, hey, he said, I'm having a Christmas party down here at my new house, so why don't you and your wife come? I'm like, so that's a joke? He said, no, I'm serious. And so we went, and we've been really good friends ever since.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed that little conversation with Freddie Query, you ought to listen to the entire interview. It's really good. The Dale Jr. Download, it's available on all major podcast platforms.